On May 2nd, 2026, we embarked on a meditative writing session under the influence of the full flower moon, which had reached its peak the night before. Like any meditative tool, meditative writing allows us to access a creative space often stifled by the concerns of everyday life. By allowing ourselves to be guided, we set out on a unique journey, sometimes as simple observers, sometimes as travelers at the very heart of the story itself, inspired by our own experiences, those of someone close to us, or even those of a fictional being. Named after the abundance of flowers that emerge during this season in the Northern Hemisphere, the flower moon symbolizes growth, blossoming, and the unveiling of what has long been maturing beneath the surface. Scientifically recognized as a micromoon, it appeared slightly smaller and more subtle, as it was positioned at the farthest point from Earth in its orbit. And yet, this softer light reminded us that profound truths can reveal themselves gently. Astrologically associated with Scorpio, a sign linked to transformation, emotional honesty, and inner depth, this full moon acted like a cosmic mirror, delicately illuminating our inner landscape and inviting us to see ourselves more clearly. During this meditative pause, we allowed ourselves to reflect on several questions. What has matured within us? What do we need to release in order to continue moving forward more freely? Like a flower unfolding petal by petal, transformation cannot be forced. It reveals itself in its own time. This full moon invited us to acknowledge the path we are traveling, to observe what no longer serves us, and then to move forward with greater intention, clarity, and inner strength. As we wrote, we kept certain essential themes in mind: personal blossoming, the importance of quiet transformations, emotional honesty, and the need to clearly recognize what is no longer aligned in our lives, whether relationships, routines, places, or environments in need of renewal. We also explored the idea that victory does not lie in domination, but in aligning with what is true within ourselves. Growth is not about force, but about inner readiness and the courage to embrace one's own truth. Each person experienced this journey in a deeply personal way. Among the travelers, several striking images emerged. For one participant, a heavy pestle symbolized resistance to a transformation that was nevertheless ready to emerge. For another, the acceptance of major change manifested through the luminous reflection of their own face. One traveler saw a mist-like doorway open into a peaceful scene, with a young girl and an elderly woman walking hand in hand through a graceful field of grass after having released their burdens. As for myself, in order to illustrate how a meditative writing session can be influenced by the phenomena surrounding us, and sometimes even by the vastness of the universe itself, I chose to share the analysis of the text I wrote during this experience. As I read this story born beneath the full flower moon, keep in mind the three themes that guided our journey: emotional depth, honesty, and transformation. Here I go. I lost the path this time, and yet the cosmic mirror has many things to show me, such as the feeling of being insufficient, unworthy, devoid of value and creative ability. All of that belongs to the past. But the mirror also shows me where I made poor choices and what my personality needs to understand about the way I behave, learn, and evolve, so that I may live in peace and harmony. I am going to record the meditation so I can practice it properly. Beneath this short text, I drew the back of a canvas tent and part of a young girl with long flowing hair standing in front of it. She is seen from behind as she gazes into the distance toward the tribal chief mentioned during the meditation. The motif on the tent depicts a stack of rocks from which blooming flowers emerge. At the center of the canvas, the flexible branches of a large weeping willow sway gently in the breeze. Above the willow, isolated leaves slowly twirl as they fall. Beside the drawing of the tin I wrote, flowers bloom despite the rocks. I decided to share this text with you even though it was not what one hopes for when beginning a meditative journey. This time, I did not fully manage to enter the journey itself, and yet what emerged from it resonated deeply within me. At the end of the reflection phase with the participants, I asked each person to choose one element from their text in order to explore its meaning more deeply. For my part, I chose the great weeping willow, which had become the central point of my story. In many traditions, the willow is associated with the moon and water. It symbolizes intuition, emotions, and the subconscious. For a long time, it has also been considered a tree with healing qualities, capable of accompanying grief, inspiring renewal, and encouraging personal growth. With each passing day, I understand more clearly that this year will finally be the year my tears leave me behind. Tears accumulated since childhood, adolescence, but above all, from unhealthy relationships and from the motorcycle accident that nearly cost me my life. That event left me with an altered, transformed face and with a new perception of myself. An identity I see both in the earthly mirror and in this very cosmic mirror. The text I wrote appeared to me as a reminder that it is time to grieve everything that has left marks within me. The image of the willow gently swaying has often been associated in literature with the sadness of farewells. The kind of accident I experienced is sometimes described as grieving the loss of oneself, a farewell to oneself. It has now been 13 years, and I deeply believe that this year will finally be the year I put an end to mourning the young girl I once was. Maybe. In mysticism, the strength and flexibility of the willow tree were revered as a metaphor for the spiritual journey. One biblical reference notably states, "There on the willows we hung our harps." In this passage, the willow does not represent power, but rather loss, hope, and the promise of what may yet be reborn. In Celtic astrology, the willow represents the observer, a being naturally honest, generous, and compassionate, drawn toward sincerity, peace, and inner serenity rather than spectacle. Finally, the willow is one of the rare trees capable of bending without breaking. It therefore symbolizes flexibility, endurance, and the ability to follow the current of life without losing one's roots. Despite the violent upheavals, I held on and persevered. Even though I had turned my back on what I had left behind many years ago, the roots remained deep and continued pulling me inward so that I could finally find my way back home. At this stage, I fully recognized myself in the image of that willow.